Bear down, Bears fans. On today's episode, we're going to be breaking down how the Chicago Bears benefit from Dalvin Cook being waived by the Minnesota Vikings. All that and more on today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talks. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. So, listen, Dalvin Cook being waived by the Chicago Bears. By the Minnesota Vikings. How does that help the Chicago Bears? Let me know how you guys feel. It might help in the comments below. But here's some of the reasonings that I've come up with this whole thing. Number one, it signifies that Minnesota actually is kind of trying to go through a rebuild. And here's the tough part about it, right? They're going at this aggressive, competitive rebuild thing that they talked about last season. And they're trying to basically fix players that were there and replace players that were there, all while being competitive, basically to say, hey, we want Justin Jefferson to stay here and be happy. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you're still heading toward a rebuild. And realistically, you are looking at a Vikings team that is less talented today than it was at the start of the day. What does that mean? To me, I'm looking at this as a situation where I told you guys the Vikings were going to take a step back. I told you guys the Vikings weren't going to be this oh my God team yet again. But I think with Dalvin Cook being waived, when I look at the roster, I start to look at the team and say, okay, listen, yeah, there's still some weaponry here, but man, this was a big weapon for Kirk Cousins that isn't there. How much of a step back are the Vikings really going to take? Because when you think about the Vikings, think about all the times when Kirk Cousins was slowed down, stopped at all, whatever it is, right? It was when either Dalvin Cook wasn't on the field or when Dalvin Cook was being slowed down and stopped, and it forced Kirk Cousins to basically just be a quarterback candidate. I think that this helps in the Bears' favor because, to me, right, I think this Bears team, like I said, is going to be competitive all season. And realistically, when you look at this team now going up against the Vikings 2 times a year, it doesn't feel like this overwhelming, oh my God, we can't stop the Minnesota Vikings anymore, because realistically, the run game was something that was so impactful for them, allowing Kirk Cousins to be able to stand back there, play the play action, be able to attack. I think that this opens things up for the Chicago Bears window maybe a little bit more and helps the Bears in the sense of standings wise, because I just don't see the Vikings, right? Listen, there's never been this overwhelming trust in Kirk Cousins. There's never been this, oh my God, this guy's an amazing quarterback, there's nothing you can't do. But I feel even more so with Madison standing back there, just like, okay, yes, there is Madison back there. You're probably still going to have some weaponry in that backfield, but it's not the, oh my goodness, backfield of Dalvin Cook is a major weapon that we have to watch out for. Now, all of a sudden, I think that this might force Kirk Cousins to take a little bit of a step back in himself, because more people are going to know, just like last season when they wanted to be more of a passing offense, that Kirk is going to be throwing the football out to those wide receivers more. I think that's going to allow defenders more time to pin their ears back. And I think that the interesting part about what the Vikings are doing here is that the rebuild doesn't seem to be over. I do want to know how you guys feel, man. Do you feel like Dalvin Cook being out of the division does help the Bears? I'll be down in the comments talking with you as well. I mean, I don't see a way that you could think that it doesn't help the Bears. First off, you don't got to go up against Dalvin Cook 2 times a year. But the one thing that I'll say that I think actually gets me the most excited about it is, right, like, now we see that they're in this rebuild, and I think that this means that the trade of Danielle Hunter could actually be something serious. And we heard that the Vikings' new regime is willing to trade within the division. Danielle Hunter is an absolute monster on the edge, and I think that he could be somebody that the Bears really could benefit from. Now, I know, right, like, oh my God, are we really going to trade capital? Why don't we just go sign this guy? Why don't we just go get this guy? You have to think about, right, like the Frank Clarks, the Yannick Ngakwe's, even Leonard Floyd, who's now off the market. Do they want to come to Chicago? Do they want to be a part of a team that, even though we're all optimistic about the pieces that have been added in, realistically was a 3-win football team last season? I think that this allows the Bears an opportunity to go out, get an edge rusher that could be a really good piece on the defensive side of the football for you. And Danielle Hunter could be a linchpin piece for you. Now, is he that 3 technique that you're looking for? No, but you're hoping that with Javon Dexter, with Zach Pickens coming in, right, that you've kind of found those pieces in the draft. You still need somebody to address that edge rush position. And so to me, I'm looking at Danielle Hunter as the perfect candidate for this. When you look at his numbers, right, in past, you've seen that he's been able to get to the quarterback. Couple of years of injury issues when you look at 2020 and 2021, right? 2020, he misses the entire season. 2021, I believe he tore his pec, and so missed a good chunk, only played 7 games, but in 2022, coming back, being the epitome of health that he's been his entire career, and he fits the timeline that Ryan Poles has been really looking to attack. He is 28 years old coming into this season. I feel like he would be a perfect asset, and I think that the Bears could possibly get him at a little less of a draft price, right? Why do I say that? Because when you look at what this team is going to be doing with this whole rebuild situation, I could just wait for you guys to be upset about the contract and for him to walk away next season without a contract, become a free agent, and hopefully we're in a better position where we look like a better team and try and go sign him then, hopefully with still some money on the books. Or I could make this trade with you now, possibly give you some draft capital. I mean, maybe we're talking about a 2nd round pick this season and a future 3rd, something like that, right? Like, I'm not talking anything crazy here. But I think that, right, that the reason I'm not talking crazy is because this is not the first time that they've been in a contract dispute with Danielle Hunter. Remember, they have to either pay him this contract or basically assume that he's going to play out this season and just walk away. And there's probably going to be a holdout situation coming into place here. There's right, like, he's done this before. They've done this with previous management before. They didn't want to be here again, but yet here they are. And so I think that he is going to be a major trade piece on this market. I think he's going to be a major trade piece as a part of the Vikings rebuild. And I think the Bears could take advantage of that. 1, because they have the capital that they can actually trade away. And 2, because they have the money. Again, I know we're going to hear it. I'm going to hear it all in the comments. Why would you trade away the capital? Because there might not be people that want to come here. I know we love Chicago. That doesn't mean Yannick Ngakoue loves Chicago. That doesn't mean that Frank Clark loves Chicago. That doesn't mean that the plethora of pass rushers on the market love Chicago. And so sometimes you got to go out and get a guy that you can bring in the building, bring into a fresh situation and say, hey, listen, you might not love Chicago, but do you love $75 million? You know what I mean? Like, if we're being 100% honest about it, the fact that the Bears have the money to make these moves, these are the moves that start to, again, I've mentioned this before, turn your players behind you into blue chip players. You've got Tremaine Edmonds, you've got TJ Edwards. I love those guys, but they're not going to be the same guys without a pass rush in front of them. The Vikings kind of had that same situation. Oh, by the way, even with his drop in production last season, because I know that that's been mentioned a couple of times, why would you want him? You see that he didn't come back the same. Well, he switched from a 4-3 to a 3-4. He's got his hand out of the dirt all of a sudden. He's standing up. Put that man's hand in the dirt. Let him pin his ears back. Let him get to the quarterback. That's what he does best. And I think that he would fit absolutely amazing with this Chicago Bears team moving forward. And to me, right, like, I just look at this as a situation where if you're going to jump on anything, this is probably the deal that I would jump on, because I understand, again, right, the 2 years of injury, the 2 years of him being down, sure, there's always that. But at the end of the day, you're still looking at a guy who, for most of his career, he's been in the league since 2015, 2016, most of his career has been the pinnacle of health. I believe he's only missed, outside of those couple of seasons, he only missed starting games because he was young and they didn't want to start him. So I'm a big Danielle Hunter guy. I understand the injury concerns. I think I'd be willing to take a chance on those, especially with him at 28. He's still got a lot of good football left in him, and he could be a piece that we're talking about coming off of the edge for years to come, that I think could be a really good asset for the Chicago Bears. But again, I do want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. Do you think that this signals the full-on rebuild for the Chicago Bears? Should the Bears be trading for Danielle Hunter? I think that it's a great idea. Do want to know how you guys feel. Then the other thing is, listen, Dalvin Cook being out of the division, it just helps the Bears in the sense of you don't have to face Dalvin Cook. And at the end of the day, that's one less weapon for you to game plan for. I think it changes essentially how this team is coming into the season, what they're going to be trying to do. And the one thing that we've always said about Kirk Cousins is if you make him a quarterback, you feel a lot better about that game that you're going into. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Madison isn't still a really good back, isn't going to be able to go out there and make plays. I'm not saying any of that. He's the number one back in this situation, but I can say this for 100% certainty. He is not Dalvin Cook. And I think that, the fact that Dalvin Cook probably going to Miami, I think that would be one of the best fits for him. You're not even going to see him in the division. You could be talking about a Bears team, and it's not crazy to say this to me, right? Like, I think standings are changed based on a simple move like this. You could be talking about a Bears team that if the Vikings do take the step back that I think is competing, like Ryan Poles said earlier in the season, for a wild card spot. I don't think the Bears are going to go off and sit here and win the NFC North. I guess it'd be cool, but I don't think they're going to win the NFC North. But you could see them competing for a wild card spot. I think that this absolutely is going to be a drastic change to what the Vikings want to do. I think that this is going to be a drastic change to how the Vikings are going to be moving forward. And I think that the Vikings mindset changing is going to, they're trying to open up cap space. I believe they only had $10 million in cap space basically at this point, and they're trying to find ways to open up that cap space. They're going to have to start dumping players. I think they are heading for a rebuild. I think they are heading towards the back of the division at some point, right? Because I mean, if you get halfway through the season and the Vikings are 4-5, are you trying to go out there and compete for the playoffs still? Are you trying to go all in? I get it. Again, Justin Jefferson, you're trying to keep him around. You love the monster that he is. You got KJ Osborne there with him. You still got dynamic wide receivers in the building. The question mark is your quarterback. And I hate to tell you this, you're not going to get a great quarterback sitting there being 8-9, 9-8. You're just not. And I don't think that they're going to re-up with Kirk Cousins. I don't think they're going to run this whole thing back with Kirk Cousins. I don't think that they're all in on Kirk Cousins on this next contract. And so to me, where are you going to go find that quarterback? Maybe right? Like maybe this is a situation where Danielle Hunter you're trying to trade him for a piece that could be the next up quarterback, whatever that is. But Kellen Mond ain't the answer. And those are the kind of quarterbacks that you're going to be finding at that middle of the first round, early second round type of spots, right? So I just don't see a path for the Vikings this season. Listen, could they win some games? 100%. I'm not saying that they're going to be the worst team in the division. That's slated for the Green Bay Packers. But I do believe that this Vikings team, as it stands right now, doesn't have a future path for the next guy who's going to be able to get Kirk Cousins or going to be able to get Justin Jefferson the football. I don't think that they have that future path. And you've seen them, right? Like last season, they're trading away their tight ends. They're moving small pieces. They're slowly selling pieces off, but they're not replacing those pieces. And everybody felt good. Oh, we're doing this in a 13-4 season. Yeah, but it ends up with a first round exit because that's the kind of quarterback that Kirk Cousins is. Again, good enough to get you beat. That is all he is. That's all we've seen from him. That is all he'll ever be at this point in his career. I believe he's 35, 36 at this point. So you're basically expecting him to be on the outs anyway. That ain't Aaron Rodgers standing back there, right? Well, I guess they do have similar trajectories out here. I guess if you look at Aaron, I mean, Aaron got the MVPs, but both beat in the first round. But I do want to know, like I said, how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. Do you think that Dalvin Cook being out of the division does benefit the Chicago Bears? Let me know. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bears content. Click the links on the screen. Check the links in the description below. And if you are just here for the Bears content, make sure you subscribe to the Chicago Bears Breeze. That will be linked up here as well, where we have just our Bears content posted over there. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. As always, man, y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.